Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Touchdown Drives podcast. I am still your host, Case Kajani, a big fan of the NFL who loves making these types of videos. Joining me once again, my co-host and probably the saddest Warriors fan I know, Aaron Jackson. Welcome back, Aaron.
Thank you for that wonderful intro. It's all right. At least we're not. At least we're not the Pelicans or one of those teams down there. But it's a little frustrating. But it's great still watching Curry do what he does at 36, 37 years old, and we'll see what happens. But we're floating above water right now a little bit at least, so I'll take it.
Yeah. Of course, Happy New Year to all of the listeners out there. Hopefully everybody had a nice holiday season. We had a very wild and interesting Week 18. We've got playoff predictions. We've got awards predictions. We're probably going to talk 49ers because we always do. This is going to be an action-packed show, so let's just get right into it, starting with the Week 18 games. We'll start with the big Sunday night football game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. These two teams vying for the number one seed and home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. Detroit, behind Jahmyr Gibbs' 4-touchdown day, beats the Vikings 31-9. Home field runs through Detroit, Michigan for the first time ever. Aaron, your reaction to this monumental Sunday night football game and Detroit's chances to win the whole Super Bowl?
And obviously, thank you for asking. We're going to get into, obviously some of the other teams in the NFC, but in my opinion, and when both Minnesota wasn't exactly as on this game, but I think when both of these teams are on, I mean, this could be a potential NFC Championship preview. You actually heard Dan Campbell going up to O'Connell after the game saying, "See you in 2 weeks," which is a possibility. I mean, it could be a divisional round matchup. But, I think that one of my biggest issues was I think Kevin O'Connell made some really bad decisions to go for it in moments they probably should have kicked field goals and taken the points. Despite the fact that, this isn't a playoff game and you win and you're out. I mean, it's a game you win and you have a first round bye. So they should have treated it like a playoff game and just, in my opinion, taken the points when they had them, because Detroit's defense was locked down all night. There was just nothing Minnesota had out there. They made Sam Darnold look like Jet Sam Darnold out there. And credit to the Detroit Lions. I mean, Detroit had a fantastic game out there. Jared Goff just continues to surprise me and amaze me. He's having the best season of his career. And Jahmyr Gibbs is really, going into the season, I know a lot of people are talking about, hey, how many snaps is Gibbs going to get versus Montgomery? And Gibbs has really outshined. He's really showed himself to be a starting running back in the NFL and be the clear number one back on that team. I was very impressed by Detroit. They continue to look like the best team in the NFC to me. We're going to see what happens come playoff time. But yeah, that was a fantastic way to close out the regular season.
I think also you mentioned that Detroit lockdown defense. For the last few weeks, Detroit has not been a lockdown defense because most of their defense has been injured. They lost their starting corner, Carlton Davis, in that game against the Bills. They lost their starting defensive tackle, Aleen McNeil, against the Bills. They're still without Aiden Hutchinson. Alex Anzalone just returned off of an injured forearm. They're starting guys like Quan Alexander, Jamal Adams, Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch, and Mr. Face Catch Kendall Vildor. That's how banged up the Lions are on defense. And once again, this Detroit team led by Dan Campbell does not quit. They continue to fight. Gibbs has probably been the best running back out of the 2023 class, without a doubt. They're also without David Montgomery, who's out for the rest of the year with an injured MCL. So best wishes to his recovery, but Gibbs has stepped in and he's performed probably like the third best running back behind Saquon and Henry. I don't think it's an argument to say he's not a top 5 running back in the league already. And it's only year 2 when this guy's going to get even better. And the Detroit offensive line still humming. St. Brown, Jameson. How about Jameson Williams stepping up over these last few weeks? 5 touchdowns over his last 3 games. He has been a beast. St. Brown, as usual. Jared Goff, the constant. I was there Monday night in Santa Clara. You could hear Lions fans chanting, Jared Goff, Jared Goff, Jared Goff. That's how good he's been playing. So credit, it's a testament to Brad Holmes, the GM, and Dan Campbell, what these two, the culture has completely shifted in Detroit. This is a Super Bowl contender. I think they're going to win it all. Because I'm a Michigan boy, I'll be rooting hard for my Lions. It is hard not to see anyone who could challenge them in the NFC at this point in time.
And I can unite with you in the sense that while you're in Michigan, you're from Michigan. I'm a Cal fan, so hearing Jared Goff is great because he was playing closer to home, and he's doing wonders. He's the best quarterback Cal's had probably since Aaron Rodgers, and the best quarterback they've had ever since, of course, as well. Just one other thing I want to touch on with Minnesota, and one thing that worries me about them. Well, there have been games where Aaron Jones has shined this year. This was another thing too, and this also goes credit to the Detroit defense, but their run game, well, wasn't terrible by any stretch. It also wasn't, something that really kept them in the game. And I think that they're going to need big production from Cam Akers and Aaron Jones if they want to contend the playoffs, because that Vikings Rams game right now could be a bit of a trap game. I mean, there's still a lot up in the air because of the fires down south. We don't know if that game's going to be in LA or if they're going to move it to Arizona. But they're gonna have to get that run game going if they really want to contend in battle and try to make it to the NFC Championship game. So, but yeah, the Lions once again just clicking on all cylinders right now and look like, I'd say, the best team probably in the NFL.
Absolutely. Of course, Minnesota kind of laid an egg, but first, thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by the horrific tragedy that is those giant wildfires in LA. Hope everybody's staying safe, praying for all the first responders. That life and football kind of take a back seat to whatever the heck is going on right now. We just hope that, the winds die down and everybody can, make it out of there safely. And we will rebuild. We are California strong. That's how we are. Any donations you got, if anyone is watching and they'd like to donate, please go on to the American Red Cross website. I'm sure they could use all the donations that they could get to help these families right now in such a difficult time. But going back to the Vikings, you're very right, this could be a trap game because they played a Thursday night football game, week 8, and the Rams beat them. Matthew Stafford didn't get sacked once by that Vikings defense. He torched the LA Rams. I'm not going to give my prediction right away, but you're right. This could be a trap game. And, this is probably why a lot of people, despite Minnesota's, very, very excellent record, didn't think that the Vikings, could go to a Super Bowl, and that's because of Sam Darnold. It was always the quarterback. They have the defense, they have the wide receivers, because Jalen Nailor, Jordan Addison, and Justin Jefferson, that is an excellent wide receiver trio. A great tight end in TJ Hawkinson, who returned very recently from injury. You have a solid run game with Aaron Jones and Cam Akers, but it was always going to be the quarterback. And Sam Darnold is going to have to prove that he can go into a situation, because he is the road team. He's going to have to go in to Los Angeles and beat this red-hot Rams team that is playing some phenomenal defensive football as of late.
Yeah, and once again, if you go back to that Week 8 game, one of the things that was a key difference was how good the Rams' run defense was, because Minnesota was held to less than 3 yards a carry in that game. And so, I think Darnold's definitely going to have to show up, but he's going to need some help out there too from some of those guys in the backfield. And it should be a fun game. I definitely think that it's one that definitely the Rams could keep close. I just have been many times this year underwhelmed by them, but I'll hold off on my prediction until we get to that a little later.
Well, that was the Sunday night football game. So let's get to some other notable scores. that kind of affected the playoffs, some playoff spots through both the AFC and the NFC. Let's start on the NFC side. The Buccaneers used a huge second half comeback led by one of the greatest runs I've ever seen from Baker Mayfield to clinch the NFC South by defeating the Saints 27-19. The Falcons, despite Michael Penix taking over for Kirk Cousins over the last 3 weeks, lose to Bryce Young's 5-touchdown day and the Carolina Panthers 44-38. You have the Green Bay Packers losing their first game to the Chicago Bears on a walk-off field goal, 24-22. It was the Bears' first win over the Packers since 2018, and it snaps a Bears 10-game losing streak. But you also had the Commanders off a walk-off touchdown, Marcus Mariota to Terry McLaurin, to move the Commanders up to the 6th seed and move the Packers down to the 7th seed in the NFC playoffs. Your reactions to some of these notable scores. How do you think this kind of shook out the NFC playoffs? I know we both picked Atlanta to win the NFC South, and then Tampa really turned it on as of late.
Yeah, and I mean, no fault of Michael Penix. I think Michael Penix did everything he could in the final couple games of the season after being thrown into a very tough spot, not knowing, he was going to be a starter. And then, of course, Cousins has that horrible game against Vegas. I was actually there for that, by the way. And, man, he was – that might be the last game Kirk Cousins plays for a while. I'll just say that. But I wanted to talk about actually Tampa Bay because, if Mike Evans wasn't already on your anybody's top 10 list all time as a wide receiver, he should be now. He just tied Jerry Rice for his 11th consecutive season of 1,000 yards. And, you can go out there and you can say, hey, they play 17 games in a season now. It's different. It's not 16 games. Well, that's going to be the case anytime going forward. So does that mean we invalidate anything that anybody does going forward in the NFL? No. You still have to respect what these guys are doing out there. And Mike Evans continues to lead that offense. It's clear that offense and Baker Mayfield is a different quarterback with him on the field and without him on the field. When they were without him and Godwin, that team was just not the same despite Cade Otton going off. I think Tampa could be a little bit of a scary team come playoff time, actually. If you would have asked me that midseason, I might not even have said that they're a playoff team. So they've really shown wonders to me and how solid that they've been. You also brought up Bryce Young and the Panthers. And I got to say, he's probably been one of the biggest surprises to me. And, unfortunately, because of their record, I don't think you can give him like comeback player of the year. It probably has to go to somebody else. But Bryce Young, he definitely has surprised me and has shown me that he is an NFL, quarterback out there. He has not gotten sacked nearly as much. He makes impressive plays down the field. He even pulled a Steph Curry and threw a touchdown pass look away when he knew it was good. I mean, he's really just, his confidence is through the roof right now. And it's actually a shame that their season's over because if they kept going, I mean, the Panthers could be a team that, I'll just say this, they could be a team that could be scary going forward if they continue to build with that young core. So, the NFC South, well, it's a division that has kind of been made fun of and laughed at the last couple of years. I think it's a division that's only going to get better going forward, with the play of Baker Mayfield, with Michael Penix, if he's able to lead them going forward, and with Bryce Young, a lot of young quarterbacks that can make that division very exciting. Tampa Bay, impressed by them, impressed by Mike Evans, and I expect them to maybe do a little damage come playoff time.
Absolutely. Congratulations again to Mike Evans. 11 consecutive seasons of 1,000+ yards. He's probably the best receiver of the modern era. I don't think you can really find any other receivers that have the same kind of consistency, durability, and production that Mike Evans has had over his illustrious, probably very well-deserved first ballot Hall of Fame career. The fact that this guy with quarterbacks like Jameis Winston was getting 1,000-yard seasons is one of the most unbelievable runs, probably not just in the NFL, but in all of sports. But yeah, I have to shout out one other receiver on Tampa Bay, and that is the rookie Jalen McMillan. This guy has really come on as of late. 5 touchdowns, over his last 3 games. This guy has really emerged in Chris Godwin's absence. Remember, Godwin got hurt in that loss to the Baltimore Ravens in Week 4. He was done for the year. Tampa Bay was looking for anyone that could step up in his absence. And that is exactly what Jalen McMillan has done. I've been really impressed with him. Some of the catches he had against the Saints were some of the most impressive I've seen all year. They have a great run game with guys like Rachaad White and another rookie in Bucky Irving, who has been fantastic. They could definitely spring a surprise in that wild card round, and probably could give Detroit a run for their money, because Baker Mayfield has shown he can go into Detroit and beat the Lions, because he did it in week number 2. This guy makes magic happen no matter the situation. As long as he's been on the field, I don't know what this says about the Cleveland Browns organization that they let him go for no reason, but Baker Mayfield has been fantastic since he's arrived in Tampa Bay.
Hey, all I say is I've been a kid, I've been an adult, I've been a football fan, I haven't been a football fan, and one thing that's always been true is the Cleveland Browns have always sucked. So they're always it just that they do not ever put it together. They do not find it. So yeah, again that Browns organization just. I feel bad for anybody who's a Browns fan, but yeah, Baker Mayfield, ever since he's left there, has only shown that he's a much better quarterback. And yeah, like you were saying, it's been incredible what McMillan's been doing. I remember that Godwin injury clearly because that also ended my fantasy football season. So,
well, that was the NFC side. The AFC picture was a little bit more clear, but we did have some scores that affected the games. You had the Steelers getting destroyed by the Ravens, 31-17. The Ravens clinched the AFC North and the number 3 seed. The Steelers fall because of that. The Steelers were playing the Bengals. They lost that game to move down to the 6th seed. And the Chargers, with a dominant win over the Raiders, they moved up into the 5th seed. The Ravens had already clinched the North the week prior. My apologies. And Denver, yes, Bo Nix is not Tim Tebow. The Broncos win 38-0 over the B team of the Chiefs to clinch the final AFC playoff spot. They're going to Buffalo. Aaron, you said Bo Nix was Tim Tebow. I don't think Bo Nix is Team Tebow anymore. But what are your thoughts on some of these AFC scores?
let me first off just start by saying, how in the heck did the Philadelphia Eagles make it as far as they did with their record with Carson Wentz as quarterback? I mean, he's just bad, man. He's just not. He is not good. Yeah, no. I mean, look, credit to Bo Nix. I honestly, ever since the last podcast we did, I've been even more impressed by him. The only reason I said that is because we'll see what happens come playoff time if they can go out there and pull off an upset. I genuinely think they could give the Bills a run for their money. I still would probably pick Buffalo in that game, but I'll say, excuse me, sorry. I'll say this. Nix has been extremely impressive. He's a great mobile quarterback. He's smart when in the pocket. He's got some great guys behind him in Cortland Sutton, along with Marvin Mims, who really has shown up and shown out. Just a second. You talk about second season guys. You mentioned how Gibbs was maybe the best 2023 running back. Mims is maybe one of the best 2023 receivers out there with what he's been doing these last 5-6 weeks. So yeah, Denver's a fun team to watch, and they've got a great defense behind them as well. I still think personally they're probably about a year away, but who knows? They're another team that can certainly be a scary, and that could be a bit of a trap game for Buffalo in the first round.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Marvin Mims. If anyone was watching that game against the Bengals, that Marvin Mims game-tying touchdown catch was ridiculous. I still don't understand how he caught that in double coverage to tie that ball game. That was a beast of a catch. He's been awesome. Give a shout out to Nick Bonito. Number 1 in the league in sacks, over 15 this year. He has been an absolute beast. Number 1 in the league in sacks for Denver, a top 10 unit against both the run and the pass. They are going to give the Bills a run for their money. I really believe that this is going to be one of the best games of the first round. And of course, as a Niners fan, I must give it up to Jim Harbaugh. Every time in his first year since he's been a head coach, he takes these teams to the playoffs. He did it with the 49ers in 2011, and he does it again with the Chargers.
Did it with Michigan.
Yep. And they're going up against a prime matchup in the Houston Texans, who have not been playing well. Losers of 4 of their last 6. The offensive line is atrocious. They lost their top 2 of their top receivers in Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. The defense is good, but can it hold up against a Chargers offense that is come on as of late? I know it's against the Patriots and Raiders, but that offense was scoring above 35 in both games. I think the Chargers could definitely beat the Texans and probably give the Chiefs a run for their money in the next round with their top-rated defense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would say I don't know if I'm doing predictions right now, but if I may, I do have them beating the Texans, and I've picked Kansas City for now, but I have gone back and forth on that game against the Chargers. I definitely could see the Chargers putting up a fight and winning that game, but we know how Kansas City does in the playoffs and how they manage to pull out games at the very end. But yeah, I mean, I would consider that a win. If you win a playoff game and you give Kansas City a run down to the fourth quarter in the second round, that's a successful season to start things out for Jim Harbaugh era.
And we all know what happens the next year. First year playoff berth. Next year they go to the Super Bowl. So Charger fans, you get excited because there may be a Super Bowl run coming. But some great young teams getting into the postseason. A lot of great young talent from this rookie class of quarterbacks. All of them have really impressed. I mean, aside from J.J. McCarthy, who hasn't played all year, Bo Nix has shown a ton. Jaden Daniels is the offensive rookie of the year. Michael Penix has really come on as of late after taking over for Kirk Cousins. This has been and Caleb Williams has shown a lot as the number 1 pick. It's a bad situation in Chicago, so I excuse some of his poor play. But this has been a phenomenal rookie class.
Speaking of that, I actually wanted to ask you a question because I've thought about this recently. If you're in Minnesota, what do you do at the quarterback situation next year?
Ooh, it's a tough call because Darnold has been fantastic. And if you let him go, there are going to be a lot of teams that are chasing after him. But at the same time, after the successful season you had, how can you just let this guy go? I mean, if I were the GM and I am not a football general manager or anything to do with the analytics and stuff, but if it were me, I would consider franchise tagging him because McCarthy's going to need a year to come back from that injury, and we don't know how he's going to look coming off of the injury. And the way Darnold is playing in this offense, you probably want him at least for a year to bridge the gap. And then when McCarthy is ready, like with what the Falcons did with Kirk Cousins to a lesser sense, they waited until Penix was ready. He took over, and he showed up, and he showed out.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is going to depend on the run they make in the playoffs. I think that if they, depending on matchups, if they win first round and as long as they don't take on Detroit second round, if they make it to the NFC Championship game, I feel like you kind of have to bring Darnold back as your starting quarterback. But, if they go out there and they lay a goose egg or they struggle against LA, then you probably are like, okay, hey, it was a fun run. It was a good run. It was a Cinderella run there. But, we want to go with the younger guy and, let him produce and see what he can do out there. So I think a lot of it's going to fall on, how far Minnesota makes it in the playoffs.
I agree. And this is going to be a fun playoff prediction show to try and break down all of this stuff. But before we do that, we must get to the 49ers season from hell. It's over. They lose once again to the Arizona Cardinals, finishing 6-11. They hold the 11th pick in the draft. More questions than answers. Aaron, would you do me a favor and rip the Niners for me so I don't have to?
Well, first off, I can't believe I'm doing this. It's the only thing I'm going to say positive about them. I want to give them props. They actually put up a fight against the Lions, and credit to them for doing so. Yeah, I know you went to that game. You got to watch it live, and I went to a game that I watched live, and I wanted to jump off a cliff afterwards. But I'll say this. I think that and you always will hear people who are vocal online that want to critique every little thing about the team, saying, "Oh, hey, hey, it's Brock Purdy. It's not Brock Purdy. I still want to believe in the guy. He didn't have." The team was never at full health this year. He never had Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, all those guys together. I've already heard rumors that they want to, they're going to try to bring Deebo back. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about that. just his attitude throughout the season and how things went, how little he was also, and this doesn't necessarily go on him, it probably goes more on Shanahan, but how little he was utilized in the backfield. I just feel like his value drastically went down. I don't know if he's somebody that we need to keep around. And I still want to believe in Brandon Ayuk despite his struggles early in the season. I, the one thing that frustrates the heck out of me is there's already been talk about, what they're going to do. They're going to bring in Clay Kubiak as offensive coordinator. It was kind of such a whatever burger to me. But the thing that frustrates me is Kyle Shanahan's still going to be the play caller out there. And no disrespect to Kyle, but I just think he's cooked as a play caller. I really do. I think that he needs somebody there to take over that duties and he can focus solely on being head coach. I don't think he's a great play caller anymore. I really don't. I think that his time has come and it's over. He needs to hand the reins off to somebody else because it's not working. The one positive thing that I am looking forward to is the talks of who might be defensive coordinator next year. They're already talking about potentially bringing Robert Saleh back. That would be a late Christmas present, please and thank you. That would be amazing. But there's also talk that they might bring Navarro Bowman in, which would be absolutely something I would be I would be totally up for, and that would be cool as well. So defensively, I'm really looking forward to the future. Offensively, I'm not sure how much I'm looking forward to, depending on the personnel that they're going to have coming back. I know that I always joke around, hey, we're the Niners running back factory, but honestly, we still need more because, you've seen the injuries we've had at the running back position this year. There were times Isaac Guerendo went down. Obviously, McCaffrey was never healthy, and personally, I don't think he's ever going to be the same player again. There were times Jordan Mason went down. There were times where he looked good, but then he also struggled. So I actually think we need to draft another running back. I believe in that wholly, or we need to sign a free agent. I don't know if Christian McCaffrey needs to be the starter or needs to play nearly as much. And that's the thing that frustrates me about Shanahan is he runs guys into the ground once they show they have any potential. He did the same thing with Jordan Mason the first few weeks of the season. So I really want to see a running back squad where they can split reps. They can, have enough depth to where they don't need to run the ball 15, 20 times a game. And then I think they can get back to where they're at. I definitely don't think that we're done. I think that, if we have the right personnel around, I think we have potential to be really good again. And then the last thing I will say is Jake Moody, you can take your ass over to Europe. You can take your ass over to Mars for all I care, as far away from this football team as humanly possible. I don't want you on that sideline anymore. You want to know something that's crazy, Case? This dude, when he came back from injury, he missed 9 kicks in the last 9 weeks of the season. Keep in mind, only 9 weeks missed 9 kicks. That ties the most misses out of anybody for the entire season. Just those 9 misses alone. That's how poor he was. I don't want him out there anymore. I don't care if it's Anders Carlson. I don't care if it means we're drafting another kicker. We need somebody else at that spot who we can rely on to get us some points when we need it. So I think if we get a new kicker, if we have enough depth at the running back position, and if we sign the right guys on our coaching staff, I definitely think we're a team that can contend for a Super Bowl again. But we need a lot of dominoes to fall in the right spots for us to be a contender. And right now, it's not looking good after this season.
I agree with that. I will add on one more. We need to draft an O-line because that O-line has been destroyed this year, except for the rookie Dominic Pooney, who I absolutely love.
And I will say, he's definitely getting worse because he's getting older, but he's still solid. Big credit to Trent Williams, who's already said he's going to come back and play one more year. This is going to be his last year next season. But the fact he's going to come back and try to give it one more run, credit to him. Deserves to have his. I think he deserves to have his number retired. He's one of the best 49er linemen. So the
fact that he's only been playing as a Niner for 6 years, you're all calling for the jersey retirement, speaks to how good Trent Williams has been over his entire well-deserved Hall of Fame career. But I am also looking forward to next year. The growth of this rookie class, this rookie crop for the Niners has been outstanding. Guerendo, he took over and he showed a ton this year. Ricky Pearsall had a strong finish to the end of the year. 3 touchdowns over his final 2 games. I'm looking forward to a healthy offseason for him where he's not going to get shot by an armed robber, and he has a healthy offseason that he can get ready with Brock Purdy. They're already talking him and Purdy are going to be, having some throwing workout sessions over the summer. I like to see that. That means the chemistry is developing. You have a great young corner in Renardo Green who's already shown he's ready to take the reins from Charvarius Ward, who is likely not going to be returning to the Niners this year. You have a great young safety in Malik Mustafa. He has now made Talanoa Hufanga expendable, and Talanoa Hufanga is an all-pro safety. So the Niners have a lot of questions. They have a lot of guys that are hitting free agency. You have guys like Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, Charvarius Ward. You have Kittle, who's on the last year of his contract. Kyle Juszczyk's status with the Niners is up in question. There's some talks he may leave. Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner's wife is posting his Twitter threads for some reason. I don't know what that means, but there's potential he may be gone, although I'm not sure to which team and for what price, considering the injuries he's coming off of. But and I believe that McCaffrey can get back to that all-pro level that he was showing 2 years ago, because he's still one of the best running backs in the league. We need an O-line. We need to find a replacement at linebacker quickly. And then the big question is the Brock Purdy contract, because he is now eligible for the highest paid contracts in the league. And unfortunately, because of guys like Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, and Trevor Lawrence, who have basically been paid like they're Super Bowl quarterbacks and they haven't even won a playoff game, or in Trevor Lawrence's case, one playoff game, Brock Purdy could be the highest paid quarterback in the league. If you were Jed York and that management and that front office, how much are you paying Brock Purdy?
I'm not right now. I'm not. And I know that sounds crazy, but I know I just mentioned earlier that I'm defending him in the sense that there were injuries on that team all year. He's still definitely underperformed. And I know that he was fantastic the season prior, the season and a half prior to that. And there maybe is a team out there that would take him. I'm sure New York Giants or somebody out there would maybe give him an offer.
The
Raiders. But if I'm Jed York or if I'm Lynch, I'm telling him, look, we respect what you've done for this team so far, but we feel you need to still prove it out there on the field that you're worth 50, 60, $70 million a year. I think that he is. If he's playing to his potential, definitely deserves to be that guy. But I think that he needs to still prove it out there on the field. And this season, I don't feel like I got that. Now, the big thing is, does he walk from that? That's a tough thing right there, because if he walks, then you're in a position where you have to do something at the quarterback spot. So in a sense, in that, the Niners are kind of stuck. And I don't want to say, but in a way, we're kind of at the will of what Purdy wants to do there. But I would at least have a conversation with him. I don't think I'll just blindly give it to him. I think there needs to be a conversation to be had there. I would say if it comes down to it at the end of the day, you probably have to pay him. But I would definitely have a conversation with him first, and I think that right now my gut tells me, hey, he has to perform out there on the field, and we didn't see it this year. Just a couple other things I wanted to say. I do believe Kyle Juszczyk is going to be back. I do think he'll be coming back. And then a couple of things on the personal side. My thoughts go out to Charvarius Ward and his family. One of the main reasons he wants to leave is he's got a lot of trauma from his 1-year-old dying. It's just such a sad situation there. There's been a couple of situations with other 49ers where that's happened in the past. Marquise Goodwin's one that comes to mind immediately, for example, a few years ago. And then also just Ricky Pearsall. This guy. We're talking football on the show, and I'm not going to get into anything, on any other side, but just on the religion side for a second. I mean, he's showing what I guess it means to be a true Christian. I mean, he's going out there and saying, hey, I want to meet with the guy and talk to him and figure out what's going on in this dude's life, the guy who shot him. It's just, that's insane to me. I mean, it just shows the amount of compassion that this dude has in his heart, the change that he wants to make in the world. And look, he deserves nothing but the best wishes going forward. And I hope that this guy turns out to be a star, because he's not only a great person, he's a fantastic athlete. The fact he got back out there on the football field and showed out for what he did this year is incredible. Just nothing but good vibes and good positive thoughts out there to Ricky Pearsall, his family, Charvarius Ward, and his family.
Agreed. And I was there Monday night in Detroit. 7 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown. That was his coming out party. He had some ridiculous catches against the Lions, which making me even more excited for his year too. Because if he shows up, it makes that Brandon Ayuk guy a little bit more expendable. And that is everything that the 49ers could hope for. There's still situations with Debo and Kittle and other guys, but if these younger guys can come into the fold, continue their outstanding development, if we can get a little more from Jacob Cowing instead of the drop punts, I would appreciate that. And that
I've already seen that. I've already seen that they've released Ronnie Bell too.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, how wonderful! We don't need that guy anymore either. And Mr. Devontae Campbell, you can never show up in an NFL uniform again, ever.
Bye-bye.
You can stay away from any other locker rooms, please.
Go to Canada.
Oh yeah, go away, Devontae Campbell. No one wants you anymore. But that's the 49ers season from hell. Let's get to the big stuff we're all waiting for. Let's start with those playoff predictions. We're gonna go in order of the playoff games. We're gonna start with the 5th seed LA Chargers marching into CJ Stroud's house and the Houston Texans. Chargers' first playoff game in 3 years. Texans coming off a disappointing run this year where injuries and inconsistent play have dropped them to the 4th seed in the worst division, winning the worst division in football. Give me your thoughts, Aaron, on this first round matchup. Who you got, and what you're going to be watching for in this battle of the young quarterbacks.
Well, firstly, my preseason prediction absolutely got cooked because my AFC Championship game was the Texans and the Bengals, and that is not worked out because the Bengals barely missed the playoffs. Credit to Cincinnati, by the way, for what they did towards the end of the season, barely missing out on the playoffs, winning their last 5 games. I mentioned comeback player of the year. I don't care they didn't make the playoffs. Hello, Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow is just everything and then some this year for that team. Him and Jamar Chase are honestly kind of keeping that franchise up by the threads. Chase Brown had a great season as well. But getting over to this game, I'm picking the Chargers. I really wanted to believe in the Texans. I thought CJ Stroud coming into the season had potential to be an MVP caliber quarterback. Did not really show it. Plus, he also had to deal with some injuries. They still have a good run game out there as well, but I'm going with the Chargers to win this one 31-20.
I agree with you and a lot more. I believe that the Houston Texans are going to get pressure on Justin Herbert, led by guys like Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter. Thank you. You're going to get a couple picks with guys like Stingley and Petrie. Azeez Al-Shirer's back, one of my favorite 49ers. Please sign him in the offseason, San Francisco. We really need him back. Please. But
Armstead.
Trade for him too. Yeah. Indianapolis Colts, please send Eric Armstead back to the 49ers. Jacksonville Jaguars, please send Eric Armstead back to the Niners. We would appreciate. We made a mistake in not bringing him back, but that's a conversation for another day. But I got the Chargers as well. I believe that Bosa Mac attack against CJ Stroud. This is a crazy statistic. He is the second most sacked QB in all of football behind only Caleb Williams. And if you're on a list with Caleb Williams and sacks, your offensive line is probably very, very bad. And I believe that Bosa and Mac are going to get after him. That number 1 defense is going to stifle that Houston offense that is Stephon Diggs-less and Tank Dell-less. Prayers up for Tank Dell on a speedy recovery. That was a nasty injury to watch against the Chiefs. But I got the Chargers 29-17. But let's move to the...
I was going to say, still credit to DeMeco Ryans still for what he's done for that team, still making it to the postseason and trying to make that team into contenders. I think he's done a very good job as coach of that team, better than some other 49ers coaches have done.
Oh, no doubt. We miss you, DeMeco. If you ever want to come back, we'll be more than happy to have you back as defensive coordinator. We'll be more than happy to have you back. But no, this one should be all Chargers, and credit to them for winning their first playoff game, probably winning their first playoff game since Phillip Rivers was at QB. This is a great young team on the rise. Let's get to the second of the Saturday night doubleheader. We have the rematch of the North, Pittsburgh at Baltimore. The last time these two played was 3 weeks ago when Baltimore crushed the Steelers 31-17, led by, of course, Lamar and Derrick Henry. Aaron, do you give the Steelers any chance to win this game, or are we just clean chalk and going with the Ravens.
There's a cycle with the Pittsburgh Steelers every year. It's start hot, look like you're one of the top two seeds, play horrible at the end of the season, and finish 9-8, 10-7, 9-7, whatever, and then you miss the playoffs, so you make the playoffs and you lose your first game. And yeah, I look, I'm going to say this right now. I think there's some people I've seen that think the Ravens can make it all the way to the Super Bowl. They could, but they've shown many times that they also choke in the playoffs as well. But I am going to take the Ravens in this game. I think that they're just clearly the better team all around. I'm taking the Ravens to win this one, 28-17.
I've got 30-13. I don't trust the Steelers offense at all. I don't trust Russell Wilson anymore. He has been horrid over the last 5 weeks. I think the Steelers D can keep it moderately close, and then Derrick Henry is the ultimate trump card. This guy has had an outstanding year for the Baltimore Ravens. That pickup has been absolutely everything that they could have hoped for. And guys like Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, and hopefully Zay Flowers can get back for this game. Left week 18 with an knee injury. He is questionable for Saturday night's game against Pittsburgh, but this one should be all Ravens, 31-17. Let's get to the Sunday games. We'll start with the early morning game. Denver at Buffalo. Bills undefeated at home in 2024. Denver, first playoff game in 8 seasons, snapping the longest playoff drought other than the horrible Jets. Who you got in this battle of the MVP candidate versus the young rising star?
I got to go Buffalo. Again. Denver, they're close. I still think they're a year away. I think they're going to keep this one close. I really do. I think Denver is super talented. It's just, as you mentioned, Buffalo has just been perfect at home. Josh Allen should be the MVP, and I know we're going to get into awards predictions, but I think they'll be close, though. I'm going to go 27-24 Buffalo.
I thought long and hard about this one. Josh Allen was my fantasy QB. He has been outstanding all year. But I don't trust that Bills secondary, and I trust that Broncos pass rush a lot more. I'm actually going to take Denver. I am. I believe in Bo Nix. I think he can do it. I think what he has shown over the last 6 weeks, that he is no ordinary rookie quarterback. And if Jaden Daniels wasn't in this draft class, he is the offensive rookie of the year quite easily. He's been outstanding. That defense led by guys like Zach Allen and Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper and Franklin Myers up front, Pat Surtain at corner. I'm going to take Denver. I'm going to take them 23-20 and winning it off a late field goal. But
if they win that game, they win that game, I might just have to give you a hat that says you just have to believe. That's why I got one of that Prince for Christmas.
I would really like that hat. That would be a nice hat to wear, because I haven't always been the biggest Orange Crush fan over the years, but Bo Nix has got me believing for sure. I got Denver.
You brought up their defense too, and yeah, they're third in rushing yards and third in points this year. Very impressive in them. Well, you mentioned, the Bills have struggled a little bit on that front. So yeah, I think that that's going to be a fun battle. That Broncos defense versus Josh Allen and James Cook in that Bills offense.
I agree I think it's probably going to be the best game of the weekend between these two teams, but this one could also be very spicy. How about a rematch of week number 1 in the Sao Paulo? Packers going into Philadelphia taking on the red hot Eagles. How about questions on the injury front for the Packers? Christian Watson done for the rest of the year. He tore his ACL. Jordan Love questionable, but it seems like he'll go with that elbow injury. Jalen Hurts still in the concussion protocol. They have not listed his status for Sunday afternoon. Who you got? Saquon versus Josh. I guess it's gonna be Saquon versus Josh. So who you got? And what are you watching for this game?
Yeah, so I'm looking right now actually, and Tom Silverstein reported it along with NBC Sports that Jordan Love was up to a full participant in practice today. So I do expect he's going to play. And with him playing, despite not having Christian Watson, and they got Josh Jacobs, I know that Philly's good. Maybe this is the hatred I have with Philly. Give me Green Bay, 34 to
Wow!
28. Green Bay pulling off the upset at Lincoln Financial at the Link. I got Green Bay, the 7th seed, advancing to the next round. I've gone back and forth on this one all week, but now that Jordan Love is healthy, I'm going to roll with him, and I'm going to say Green Bay win this game.
That's 34-28, huh?
Hey, you got your 7th seed in. I got my 7th seed in.
I guess so, but uh, this one was a tough one because if Hurts plays, I think the Eagles win pretty easily.
Yes.
But because Hurts is questioned, I also have to take the Packers. I mean, top 10 in the secondary. I mean, if it's Kenny Pickett out there, I don't expect him to play quite as well as he looked over the last couple of weeks. But if Hurts is playing, I would have definitely taken the Eagles because Jalen Hurts with Saquon Barkley, you can't stop the RPO. The RPO destroys pretty much anybody. They would have wrapped up the NFC East a week prior had Jalen Hurts finished that game against the Commanders because they were up big. And then as soon as Hurts went out, everything changed because teams were able to key in on Saquon Barkley. I believe that the Philly defense is going to create some trouble for that Packers offense led by Josh Jacobs. Zach Bond has been awesome at linebacker this year. The younger guys like Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, C.J. Gardner-Johnson back in Philly has been great. Darius Slay still there. But I got to go with the Packers and my man Xavier McKinney. Late interception, 23-20 Packers off a late Xavier and McKinney interception because this guy's been awesome, leading the league in picks. Packers are top 10 defense. If Hurts were playing, I'd pick the Eagles, but I'm going Packers as well.
It looks like AJ Brown's going to play, but he did miss practice as well, so that's another thing to kind of keep an eye out on too for the Eagles. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a fun matchup with Jacobs and Saquon going back and forth. I think that'll be fun, but I think it'll be a close game. But yeah, I'm going Green Bay. I just want to say real quick too, one thing that's super refreshing about going through this is like it feels like every year we talk about a team who's 9-7 or 9-8 that made the playoffs. Everybody who made the playoffs is like 10-7 or better, which is great to see. Like, okay, all these teams actually like fully deserve to make it in, which is great. And it's the first year where it really feels like that 7-team format has really paid off.
And it feels like any one of these teams has a shot to dethrone the top seeds because there's a lot of great teams that have a lot of great skill sets on either side of the ball, whether it's teams like the Chargers or Broncos who have great defenses, whether it's teams like the Packers or the Vikings, who probably, we may have to look at a format change with the seedings, based on record instead of division based, because a 14-win team should not be starting probably shouldn't be a road team for the entire playoffs, considering the seasons they've had. But no, parity is alive and well in the NFL, and this is a really great exercise. But I'm gonna get to probably the best game of the weekend, at least according to me. How about the Washington Commanders? Most wins for the Washington Commanders since 1992. They are heading back to Tampa. Also a week 1 matchup, taking on Baker and the Red Hot Bucks. This is going to be a high-scoring one because I don't expect any of these defenses to slow down either of these two red hot quarterbacks. Who's taking Baker versus Jaden round 2?
You set up my score prediction very well. You said it's going to be a high-scoring fair, and it's going to be one I think that comes down to the wire. And I've got Tampa 35-33. I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game between these two teams. I think Jaden Daniels is going to prove and show why he is Rookie of the Year, despite Bo Nix being a great quarterback too. But, we talked about it, Mike Evans, and I think he's the difference maker in this game. He's clearly the best wide receiver out there on the field. And Baker is only getting better with that team. I think both defenses are going to struggle a bit, but I think that it's going to come down to probably who has the ball last, and I'm going to go with Tampa to win this one, edging out the Commanders, who watch out for their future. I think that the Commanders could certainly have potential to be better than Philly very, very soon. But I'm going to go with the Buccaneers.
I'm going Buccaneers as well, 34-30. I believe. But you said Mike Evans. I believe that Bucky Irving is the difference. The worst ranked rush D of all the playoff teams is the Washington Commanders. Bucky Irving averages 5 yards a carry. I believe he is going to be the difference, despite Jaden Daniels' outstanding year. And if he has the ball last in his hands, I wouldn't put it past him to go win that game because he has done that every single time for this Washington football team. But I got Bucky as the difference. He's going to have an outstanding day against a pretty porous Washington run defense. Baker's been awesome as of late. The defense in Tampa is mediocre, but I think they do just enough. 34-30 Buccaneers. But the final game, this one's also a rematch. Minnesota taking on Los Angeles. We kind of teased this a little bit. Still questions on where this game is going to be played due to the horrific situation in Los Angeles. Who you got, Sammy versus Matt?
I'm gonna roll with the Vikings. I actually think this is gonna be a bit of a lower scoring game. I'm gonna go 20-17. This is another one I've gone back and forth on for a while. I think Sam Darnold is going to be very hungry after that, week 18 performance and the way that they struggled. I think the Vikings in general are going to be very hungry and frustrated that hey, we went 14-3, but we have to play this week. And so I think they're going to be pretty frustrated about that. I have them coming out on top and winning this game on the road, but yeah, the Rams they're a sneaky team, and I definitely worry about them making a run if they can get past Minnesota. But I'm gonna go with Minnesota edging out LA 20-17.
This one probably is gonna hurt me as a Niners fan to do this. I love Sam Darnold. I love JJ. I love this team. But give me the Rams. This Rams particularly, and the difference for me is that defense. The way that defense has been playing over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Last 3 opponents prior to Seattle, under 10 points per game. I have to give so much credit to guys like Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Kobe Durant, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, the former Niner Ahkello Witherspoon, Cam Kitchens, Cam Curl. I think that defense is the difference. They've been forcing a ton of turnovers as of late. The Matthew Stafford-led Rams offense has been putrid as of late, but I think they do just enough in the run game with Kyren Williams. They schemed out this Brian Flores defense the last time. I expect them to do it again. I have 23-17 Rams, and I have the Rams moving on to the next round. And it hurts me as a Niners fan to say that because we play in the same division, but damn it, I love Matthew Stafford, and I love the way Sean McVay has been coaching this team as of late.
I just wanted to mention real quick, too, the Rams put out a statement, I believe about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and said that as of right now, the playoff game remains scheduled to be played at SoFi Stadium on Monday night. So there are still the contingency plans to play at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, but right now they are planning on still playing at SoFi.
I did see that this morning. I would be shocked if they played it in Los Angeles due to the situation, but it's kind of secondary to the big game. But it's a really tricky game to try and kind of figure out because these two teams played before, but you could see it flip-flopping easily going the other way. But these are all of our playoff predictions. Before we go, we have to do all of our awards predictions. So let's just start with the easy one, Offensive Rookie of the Year. This is a pretty competitive race. You have Malik Nabers, you have Bo Nix. I assume I know who you're taking, but who you got?
I am taking Mr. Bo Nix.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, look, and the thing that's amazing with him is like he started the season so rough and he looked like he was going to struggle and be one of those guys that was a bust. And he has just gotten better and better week by week by week. I think he was 26 of 29 in that game against the Chiefs. As you mentioned, it was, their second string guys, but still he just continues to impress me. I'm going with Bo Nix.
Wow. That's not what I mean. I think this is a pretty obvious choice, but I'm taking Jaden Daniels. This guy.
You're saying okay? Well, offensive rookie of the I would say if we're going rookie of the year, because I want to give them both an award. But if we're going offensive rookie of the year, it probably does have to go him. But if we're going just offensive like player of the year as a rookie, rookie of the year would probably be him and Jaden Daniels in general. But I would like to give Bo Nix his own award just for what he's done. But yeah, you're probably right. Jaden Daniels probably does deserve rookie of the year.
He has been amazing. He has turned that Washington franchise around. Most wins again for the Commanders since 1992. This team has been phenomenal. He has made so many clutch throws, whether it's the game winner against the Eagles, the almost game winner against the Cowboys, the Hail Mary no one will ever forget against the Bears. This kid just comes through time and time and time again. So, I mean, we want to give both of these quarterbacks their love. They both have phenomenal futures. This entire rookie class, again, has been fantastic. But, of course, Jaden Daniels probably wins it. I mean, he's going to be in line probably for some MVP votes with how well he's played. So, Jaden
Yeah, can I
Daniels.
also say a guy that deserves to be in this conversation, even though he's not going to win it, but a guy I think that's right behind him that has been the biggest surprise and has been the bright spot in how bad this team is Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nearly 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns this year. He's already looking like a borderline top 10 receiver in the league as a rookie, and he's got a fantastic future ahead of him.
Of course, we have to mention Bucky Irving, who's had a phenomenal year, over 1,100 yards on the ground, 11 touchdowns. As a very late round rookie, this kid has been fantastic. This kid's been fantastic, of course. Let's get to defensive rookie of the year. There's a few. There's not really a strong candidate in all of these races. I mean, defensive rookie of the year is kind of subjective of who you think has made an impact on a top 10 team. But who you got for defensive rookie of the year?
I've gone back and forth on this one, and you kind of mentioned it when talking about how I don't want to give them any credit at all, just based off the fact they're in our division. But I would give it to Jared Verse of the Rams. He has been extremely impressive. And again, I think the Rams were going to be in a very tough spot. The post Aaron Donald era, knowing he's retiring. Hey, what are we going to have coming in? And the fact that he has come in and has gotten 77 pressures. He got an 11 TFLs on the year. I think he got 5 sacks out there. Very impressed with what he's done. So I'm going to go with Verse.
I agree. I've got Jared Verse myself. This Rams defense has really come on strong of late as of the last 6-7 weeks. Versus him and Byron Young are the two guys of the future on that Rams defense. They look like they can replace Aaron Donald pretty nicely this year. Verse has been absolutely fantastic. He's part of, I mean, the Rams hit it out of the park once again. They always seem to find some of these late round or early round gems, whether it's Kyron Williams or Puka Nacua or, of course, Byron Young late in the first round. But no, I got Verse, and I think he's going to have a very phenomenal career moving forward. Let's get to Offensive Player of the Year. Now, this is probably a battle of the running backs. You probably got 2 or 3 different good choices. I mean, it's gone back and forth with me, and I kind of made my choice. But who you got?
Saquon. I mean, we're talking about a guy who just is made a clear difference for that Eagles team. I mean, he almost is a guaranteed 150 yards every week. And when you have a player like that, it's just it's so impressive, to be able to have a player like that in your backfield. If you're a guy like Jalen Hurts, over 2,000 yards rushing on the season. I don't even remember the last time we saw that. So, yeah, you have to give it to Barkley. I think he barely missed out on the rushing record. So, he's been an absolute star and a guy that we don't know what he was going to be like when he went from New York over there, and he's only gotten better. So, very impressive. Of course, you could put Derrick Henry in that camp too. The fact, he got signed in the offseason by the Ravens and nobody knew what he was going to be like only makes the Dallas Cowboys look dumber too on that front. But I have to give it to Saquon Barkley.
I got Saquon. I got Saquon Barkley as well. You mentioned that Derrick Henry makes the Dallas Cowboys look dumb. How about Saquon Barkley making the Giants look dumb for not signing him? You could have had a 2,000-yard running back and you let him go for free. So,
Well, it also
yeah.
helps that the Eagles' offensive line, despite being without Kelce, has still been very impressive. Which they got to give they deserve a ton of credit too.
Oh, yes. I mean, anybody who runs behind. I mean, DeAndre Swift last year was 1,000-yard back behind that strong Eagles O line. I know, yeah, Kelce was still there, but Saquon has had an unbelievable year. Just fell short of Eric Dickerson's rushing record. I think him and Henry had a nice battle early, but I think Saquon pulled away late. I love Saquon Barkley for this award. Let's get to the guys in the suits, or I guess track suits. Coach of the Year. There's a lot of terrific candidates for this award. They've got a lot of turnaround, a lot of great teams that have been turned around. Who you got winning it for the suit for the guys in the suits?
All right, so Dan Campbell might deserve it. O'Connor might deserve it. I don't care. I'm giving it to Jim Harbaugh.
Oh,
The fact that he, as you mentioned, brought that team to the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. They showed some struggles. He was able to get a lot out of guys who really didn't look like they were going to have a lot last year. Quentin Johnson's gotten better on that offense. Ladd McConkey as a rookie has been just extremely impressive. But I think that Harbaugh is got a really just when it comes to coaching in general, I think the way that he plays out halves and the way that he kind of just manages things throughout the game, especially down the stretch, is something that's impressive. It was impressive, and a big positive when he was with the Niners. I think if you're a first year coach coming back to the NFL or just entering the NFL for the first time, you can bring your team to the playoffs and put them in a position to win. I think that that's huge, and I think that sometimes gets undervalued. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Jim Harbaugh.
I think it's a trade pick that he also turned around a Chargers defense that was one of the worst in the league to the top defense in the league. The LA Chargers, the top defense, and it still boggles my mind that he turned them around just in a year to the top defense in football. I know Dan Campbell's also had a terrific year. The Lions, the number one seed for the first time ever. O'Connell has had a terrific year. Vikings 14-3. But I'm going to the NFC East, and I'm taking Dan Quinn because the Washington Commanders were 4-13 last year. This team had an 8-win improvement from last year. I know Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal as of late. For this whole year. But you cannot underestimate how much Dan Quinn has done for Jaden Daniels, for that team and its development. He coached. I know Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator when Matt Ryan won MVP, but Dan Quinn had a lot to do with Matt Ryan's success early. I think he's done the same with Daniels. He's helped turn around a Commanders franchise that was marred with the Dan Snyder emails and the ownership situation. And this was a team in turmoil before he took over. This was the right hire. I got Dan Quinn because this has been such a phenomenal turnaround for the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, he deserves it. Dan Quinn's had event. I think a lot of people, from his time when he was just a coordinator, also in Dallas, I think a lot of people really underestimated him. I think a lot of people didn't really see, think that he was going to be, all that. But I agree. I think that he probably has to be up there too. I think him and Harbaugh are two picks that certainly deserve it out there.
All right, now let's get to comeback player of the year. Who you got for the Who you got? I think you already teased it, but I guess you'll just say it again.
Hey, it's got to be Mr. Joe Burrow, man. Or I like to call him Joe Rhodes. I'm a WWE fan, and his hairdo has looked just like Cody Rhodes recently. But no, again, basically, not going to say single-handedly because there's other guys out there that are talented on offense. I mentioned with Chase and Brown, but with how bad that defense is, the fact that he's still come out there and won some games, putting 35, 40 points up on the board, almost a guaranteed 3 touchdowns a game. He's just, I would have said, if they made the postseason, I still think Josh Allen would have been MVP, but he would have maybe had to be in conversation for MVP with what he did. I mean, nearly 5,000 yards passing. It's crazy. I mean, he has been the one shining spot in this team. He's just fun to watch. He's one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch out there. If the Bengals can get their defense together, they can be a contender. I mean, he makes them a contender immediately, just what he can do. So, and I'll say this: if they would have made the postseason, I don't think anybody would have wanted to see them. So I have to give it to Joe Burrow.
I agree. Well, I agree with your points, though I will say that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase is two of the top receivers in the league. So I will say he's not doing it all by himself, but Joe Burrow's been awesome. But my comeback player of the year is kind of going to be a little bit of a surprise. I'm going with Sam Darnold. I am. This guy was tossed away in New York and Carolina. If you can't start on the Carolina Panthers before Bryce Young became this good, I didn't know where he had a spot in the NFL. And he has come in, turned this Minnesota Vikings offense that lost its starting QB in Kirk Cousins, and they haven't missed a beat. I mean, the Vikings are top 10 in the league in points per game. I mean, Sam Darnold has thrown more TD passes this season than any of his previous 5 seasons combined. That's how awesome Darnold's been all year. I have to give him so much credit with how well he has played this entire year, coming back from a guy who was basically just a throwaway in New York and Carolina, back up to Brock in San Francisco, to a guy that probably could be making a nice big chunk of change this offseason if he were to test the market.
Yeah, I think that's certainly fair too.
Now let's get to the defensive player of the year, the guys on the other side of the football. There's a lot of good candidates for defensive player of the year, I think. But who are you picking out of this crowded field?
Well, we've talked a lot about, how much better Bo Nix has gotten throughout the year. We've talked a lot about, some of the guys they have on offense like Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, how they've improved, how they've made the postseason for the first time since, I think, 2016. Well, a big part of that is their defense, and a big part of that is their secondary. And I'm giving it to Patrick Surtain the second. And, listen, his defensive grade is second amongst all active cornerbacks right now. 4 interceptions on the season. And it's just noticeable. I mean, there are so many games where he'll stick on the top receiver and, he'll hold them to, 5-6 catches, if that, on, 10 plus targets. He is just so active out there and is always a problem for anybody, and is he's just a fantastic player in general. I'm going to give it to Patrick Surtain the second. He's been noticeable even last year, and I think that he's improved even more as this season's gone along. So I'm giving it to him.
I think Surtain is a great choice. I think you could also go with a guy like Nick Benito, who led the league in sacks. I think there's Xavier McKinney tied for the league in interceptions. But the guy I'm going with is kind of a little bit unheralded, and as a Michigan boy, I have to give him some love. Lions safety, Kerby Joseph. This man has a 0 rating. Yes, 0 rating in coverage. This guy has more interceptions than touchdowns allowed. This guy is tied for the league lead in picks with Xavier McKinney. And this man has probably single-handedly kept this Lions secondary humming, even with all of the injuries that the Lions have had over these last 4 or 5 weeks. I love Kerby. He changed that game. I was there Monday night. Those 2 picks that Kerby Joseph had against the Niners changed that game completely because the Niners were going up and down that field. The Lions couldn't stop them. And Kerby Joseph was the one that broke that game open with those 2 picks. I'm going with Kerby Joseph. The Lions are still a top 10 unit on defense. They're top 5 against the pass. So I have to give him some love with how well he has played over this entire year.
That's reasonable as well.
And now for the granddaddy of them all, MVP, MVP, MVP. Now, Saquon could probably crack this conversation if MVP wasn't so geared towards quarterbacks. I think it's probably a 2 QB race, but who are you going with? I think you already teased it.
Yeah, it's got to be Josh Allen. I mean, there's so many things I could point to with him. I know he doesn't have sometimes the best stats out there than anybody, but you also have to look at the receiving core that he has and what he's been able to make out of guys like Khalil Shafir, amongst others. I mean, out of all teams in the postseason, I mean, I'm trying to think through them right now. They probably have, like, on paper, just looking at it, one of the more underwhelming receiver cores just on paper. But with what Josh Allen is able to do out there, he's able to turn these guys into stars in a way that's something that kind of Tom Brady did. Because there was a lot of years where, the Patriots would have receiving cores where you'd be like, hey, I don't even know who this guy is. And then Tom Brady would make a name out of him. And I think Josh Allen, he's able to, quickly get those guys into shape and is quickly able to, make them useful targets on the team. I think that, he's the big thing that makes this Bills team so fun to watch. And, that they're building that new stadium across the way, and I like to call it the house that Josh built, because that place is going to draw on a lot of fans, and I've already seen some cool renderings of that stadium. But no, I think, I mean, right now, I know we only did our first round pick, but I think the Bills, if they can get past Denver, I think they can make it to the Super Bowl. And I think he could be a big part of the reason why. And he's shown that this year, why he's that guy. So, as you mentioned, undefeated at home too. Josh Allen is he's the man. I'm going Josh Allen.
I got Josh Allen as well. Here is Josh Allen's receiving core this year. Keon Coleman, who's a rookie. Khalil Shakir, second-year guy. Mac Hollins. Dalton Kincaid. Dawson Knox. Amari Cooper. James Cook. I mean, that's
and like the one guy that you might know out of that's Amari Cooper, and I think he probably has less stats than all the others.
Yeah, he had one of his worst years ever since he got traded from Cleveland. But Josh Allen, 40 touchdowns, 8 picks this year. His numbers have been fantastic. The Bills have looked like the best team in the AFC, probably the ones to dethrone the Chiefs out of all of these teams that can give the Chiefs. That probably make the Chiefs feel scared to play him, even though that Patrick Mahomes usually has Josh Allen's number. I have Josh Allen winning his first MVP. That is going to do it for our show this week. Aaron, thank you again so much. I know high school football is over, so we probably got a few other things cooking up. Why don't you give a plug to all of our viewers to let them know what you got cooking up in the new year?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can find my work, Jack High Sports Preps on Patreon. Getting back into it. High school basketball is fully swinging. I'm actually about to write an article once I'm off of this from the game I did last night, and looking to get some more podcasts myself back out again on my other pages. I still do a weekly podcast for high school sports, but yeah, you can find my work there. You can go check out the Liberation Hour still on YouTube, where I'm going to start looking to get some more stuff up on that. But yeah, thank you so much for having me again today, Case. This is great, and looking forward to a great playoffs.
Yep, we got to probably make our divisional round and Super Bowl picks, so we will catch you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the playoffs. Peace out.